Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. It is an honor to address this agenda item. I will focus into emerging issues. First, a unique and distinct status for Indigenous peoples representative institution between the UN General Assembly. It is my expert opinion that this process must be based on the principle of self-determination, which is firmly embedded in both the Charter of the United Nations and the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The concept of self-determination serves as the foundation for all conversations and decisions related to Indigenous peoples. These principles applies to all Indigenous peoples communities, and it enables them to shape their future. In the UN Declaration, the right to self-determination, as acknowledged in Article 3, which mirrors the wording from the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights and Civil and Political Rights, and asserts that Indigenous peoples are entitled to this right, along with the principle of equality enshrined in Article 2. To gain a deeper understanding of self-determination from the perspective of Indigenous peoples, I invite participants to examine the outcome document, which emerged from inclusive global consultation among Indigenous people in preparation for the 2014 World Conference on Indigenous Peoples. The ALTA document highlights that self-determination is a necessary condition for realizing all rights and serves as a framework for interpreting these rights. The extent of self-determination includes, but is not limited to, Indigenous peoples enduring sovereignty over their lands, territory, resources, air, ice, oceans, waters, mountains, and forests. Although self-determination is a foundational principle in international law, based on my examination of the communications received, Indigenous people continue to encounter significant opposition from states viewing this right as a potential menace to their political sovereignty. Consequently, states often treat Indigenous issues as exclusively social or cultural, neglecting the political aspect. This approach is misguided and undermines the essence of self-determination. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge the Brazil offers to host the World Conference on Indigenous Peoples +10. In light of the self-determination context I described it earlier, it is essential that Brazil invite Indigenous people to participate fully from the beginning and throughout the process. By doing so, Brazil will uphold self-determination and enable Indigenous peoples unique insight to advance the full enjoyment of rights that Indigenous people should have had all along. In conclusion, I remind member states that Indigenous people should be free to participate in international UN meetings such as the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues and the Expert Mechanism on Indigenous Peoples. The consultation on enhanced participation or consultation related to the World Conference +10 without fear of being followed, detained, photographed, intimidated as a prevention or retaliation for exercising the right to participate. Madam Chair, I look forward to contributing to this and other emerging opportunities that will promote implementation of the UN Declaration and advance self-determination of Indigenous peoples inter alia throughout the emancipation of their governments and international community. Thank you very much.